This is the first extended response question, and it's about a campsite. The booking system has been developed to calculate the cost of stay at £35 per night per person. The cost will be displayed to the user before they confirm the booking, and we can see there that it says that the output will be the cost. The system will ask the user for their name, number of people, arrival date, and the length of stay. So we have to complete this analysis, and we're not told like one input or one process or something, so it's all the inputs that we can see. Well, it says there that the system will ask them for their name, the number of people, the arrival date, and the length of the stay. So it'll be their name, the number of people, the arrival date, and the length of their stay. And because I'm doing this with a stylus, the box is a little bit small to fit it in. Now, before it can output the cost, it doesn't explicitly say that it's going to work it out, but it would have to work it out. It's going to calculate it, so calculate the cost before you can display it. So calculating the cost is the process there. We've got a bit of code below. Now this is written in SQA reference language. It's not pseudocode as such, and you're not expected to memorize this. You're not expected to ever write your answer in this kind of code, but you just have to be able to read it. You're going to answer in whatever programming language you're using, like Python or VB or whatever. Now, if I underline there, this is a programming language question, so it is expecting me to answer in code. I can't answer with pseudocode. I certainly can't answer with a diagram or something, or I'll just get no marks. So we have to do line 11. So it's calculating the cost. We've got the name has been input. We don't really need that to calculate the cost. We've got the number of people. We've got their arrival date. We've got the number of nights that they're staying. And we're to calculate the cost. And then we can see line 12 after it is displaying the cost. So if you're a Python programmer, like my classes are Python programmers, that's all inputs. And that's print. So we have to write the code for line 11 now. It's only one line, although it's a big box. It's probably not all going to fit in one line, but it's not as if you're writing the whole program here. You're not writing multiple lines of code. That's just in case you need a bit of space because you can't all fit it onto one line horizontally. So calculating the cost, so it's going to be cost equals, and we know that the variable is called cost because it's in there. So cost equals, and it's £35 per person per night. So cost equals 35 times the number of people, and we know that that's called number of people because that's the variable name. And then I'm running that space there, times the number of nights, which is called nights staying. Really what this question is testing is, can you pick out these variable names from the code? So can you get number of people, nights staying, and cost? Then we look at the next part of the question. It says to pay a deposit, users will have to provide bank details, state how this will be transferred securely. So that's encryption. But we're National 5, you don't really need to know much more detail about encryption, you just need to know that it's a thing. The number of guests stored in an array. Now, when I looked at this question, the array name there is called guests. Don't be tricked into thinking that it's value or index. This is just like a little table to help you. So when we're referencing this in code, it's called guests. This is just showing us in the top row the position in the array. So guests will be the values 271, 240, 153, and so on. It says the campsite want to know the total number of guests who stayed at site in 2023 using a programming language. So not pseudocode. Going to have to use Python or VB or C# or whatever my programming language is. Write your code to calculate this total. Now, we've got a total, so this is going to be a running total algorithm. And you need to know the steps for running total algorithms. So if this doesn't immediately jump out, then you need to go and look that up because you need to know these steps. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set the total to 0 because that's always the first thing you do in a running total standard algorithm. So I said total equals 0, and I'm answering this in Python, by the way. Then I'm going to loop. So this is each day. So we're going to loop 365 times. So loop 365 times. We don't need to get the user to enter it, so there's not an input statement here. It's already in the array, so what I'm getting the marks for is that I'm using this array. So I'm going to add to the total, so total equals total plus, or the way we write that, so we shortcut, it's total plus equals. So that's add to the total guests, because that's what the array is called, I, and I is the value for the loop. So this I here, that's going to go around and it'll add up each value in the array called guest. And we can see at the top that the array name was called guest. So although it's 4 marks, it's actually not too many lines of code. It's a little bit kind of densely packed because we're adding to the total, which is this, and then we're using the array and we're getting the array index with a loop. Now you might do this another way. I don't think I've seen it in Nat5, but I know that it's talked about sometimes in higher, so just in case your teacher has shown you the other way of writing a Python loop, you could say something like for, let's just say for value in guest, this is the way you can loop through an array. Total plus equals value. However, for most people, it's going to be this top one that you're going to use. Then we've got this bitmapped map of the campsite, and it says describe how this map is represented in a computer system's memory. The question is not about memory here, the question is about it being a bitmap. So how are bitmaps stored? So bitmaps are stored as pixels, so it's a grid of pixels, and then each one has a colour stored as a binary number. The key point that you're actually going to get the marks for there is really about it being each pixel. So this idea that we have a whole bunch of pixels, each one has its own individual colour, and that colours are stored as binary numbers. So that's where you're getting the marks. You're not going to lose a mark because you didn't say it's a grid of pixels or something like that.